Wow. He's making a podcast. It's been almost a year since my first one, or my second one, I think. I'm not entirely sure, but it has been a while. And I think this is probably, for me personally, the best way to do this, because I don't have time to film videos. I can, just kind of do what I would plan on doing, and also just kind of get something out there. So yeah, I think this is the best way for me to do this. So yeah, well, let's jump into it. So something I wanted to bring up for a couple minutes now is the PK Subban trade. First, I want to just bring up what that whole trade was about. PK Subban was dealt from the Nashville Predators to the New Jersey Devils. Now, if you've been following this channel long enough, you'll know that I'm both a Predators fan and a Devils fan. PK Subban goes one way, and Steven Santini and Jeremy Davies goes the other. I, for one, love Steven Santini. I think he's a fantastic hockey player. He's a good defenseman. I think he'll be really good depth for the Preds. He's one of those players that can step up and play, the fifth or sixth defensive position, and going forward, I can't imagine he's going to be too expensive, because we just haven't seen enough of him yet. A lot of Devils fans really wanted him to play more. I was definitely one of them. I thought he would have been a great addition to the Devils. He's going to be a good addition to the Preds and their deep defense. Jeremy Davies, I don't know too much about him. And 2 second-round picks went the Preds' way as well. Or the Devils, the Preds' way as well. One in this year's draft, one in next year's draft. I don't remember who the Preds drafted with that second-round pick. But, and then so the other way goes PK Subban. And when I saw that the Predators had were going to trade PK Subban to the Devils, I really wanted the Preds to get back Taylor Hall. Clearly, that did not happen. So the only reason I wanted something like that was because I knew that the Preds have had trouble scoring. I said it all season last season that they just weren't good enough. And they needed to be better, and they needed a better front presence. They needed someone who could, shoot the puck real well. Victor Arvidsson had a fantastic season last season, don't get me wrong, but he dried up. Their whole first line dried up in the playoffs, and the playoffs were terrible. Taylor Hall is a player that could probably come in clutch. We've only seen him in one playoff. I think he did pretty well for the Devils when they played the Lightning. Unfortunately, it was the Lightning that they played. I was kind of hoping for the Penguins that year, because, the Devils could have done it. Or no, I take that back. No, but we could have gotten Washington, I think. But, I think that would have been a great player to add. I'm okay with it, because I think, for the most part, the thing that the Preds got back, and Elliot Friedman says that this is the best thing that a team can have, and it's cap space. And Elliot Friedman and Chris Johnson are almost 100% sure that, or this is via the 31 Thoughts podcast, and they're almost 100% sure that Matt Duchene is going to sign with the Nashville Predators. He met with them today. Yesterday, I believe he met with Montreal. And it's just, I hope that he does, because he's something that we would need. He can provide scoring. He provides that front presence. He's a good centerman. The only thing I don't know about is what's going to happen with Kyle Turris. Is he going to be traded? At some point? I said this is the end of year video. I don't think we trade Kyle Turris until the trade deadline next year, and that's if he's playing poorly. I think he can play on Matt Duchene's wing. If we need him to, we can slide down to the third and have Bonino play on the wing. I just don't think he has value anywhere below the second line. If you get what I'm saying. he's a fantastic player, and he showed it in the World Championship that he can play, and he's ready to game. So excuse me. I really think that adding a player like Matt Duchene will be really good. Even if it is at the expense of Kyle Turris. I really do think they should play him on the wing with Matt Duchene or play him on the wing with Johansson. They just got to shake something up, and I think Duchene's a good thing to do that. A good player to do that with. Dante Fabro is going to step into that 4 spot next season with Matthias Ekholm. Probably, I think, and I think that'll be a pretty good defense pair. I don't know if we have Dan Hamhuis this season. But we still have Matt Irwin and we have Yannick Weber on the back end, and I think they're still very serviceable players. I think that I really think that this is going to be a good trade as long as the Preds can muster Matt Duchene, and if they don't, I don't think this trade is worth it at all if they can't get Matt Duchene. I really don't. It really depends on a lot of different factors. Definitely. Sorry, I'm zoning out and trying to pull up some different things real quick. I really think that Devils made out really well in that trade. And this is where I get to what I really wanted to do. I really want to talk about on the Devils side. The Devils drafted they drafted Jack Hughes first overall. A lot of people wanted Capo Caco, and I think either way you come out on top on this one. I don't really think there was a bad player to go 1 or 2. Either way, unfortunately, we make the Rangers happy. We make the Devils are happy with their pick. I really like Jack Hughes. I think he's going to be a little bit like Nico Hischier, and he's not going to really shine until the second year. But I hope he proves me wrong. Right now we're looking pretty good depth-wise. I think if you put Zacha on the wing, Pavel Zacha on the wing instead of at the center position, maybe put him on Hughes' wing. I really think that this team could be really good. Zajak's probably where he needs to be at the third line center position. I think the center depth on the Devils really improved this year. Even if you do have Zacha in the 4th line center, I mean, we have a good enough team to where that'd be okay. My only concern is wingers. We don't have very many of them. Our defense definitely shored up this year. Having Vatanen and Subban, I think this year it gives us a pretty deadly 1-2. Even if they don't play in the 1-2, if one of them plays in the second pair, one of them plays in the first pair, because I believe they're both right-handed defensemen, but don't quote me on that. So regardless, they're both very good defensemen, and I think Will Butcher's really going to step into his own again this year. I think he had a fantastic year last year, being on such a bad team. I think he had a really good season the year before. So hopefully everything works out all right, and that they're able to make it to the playoffs. I think so. The other players they drafted were Dylan Hamaliuk. Oh Jesus, Nikita Okihatiuk, Danil Masiol, Graham Clark, Michael Vakojevic, Tace Thompson, Casey McCarthy, Cole Brady, Arsenic Gritsuk, Patrick Moynihan, God, I'm sorry, I'm butchering his names, Nikolai Pasic. Patrick Moynihan was actually spoken highly of in one of his interviews with, one of the Devils' interviews with Jack Hughes, and I think that was really good that he was able to get his buddy drafted. I mean, in the 6th round, I think. I don't know if Moynihan's going to ever play for the Devils in the near future, but I mean, he could prove me wrong. I mean, I believe rookie camp is this weekend. It is for a lot of teams. I know it is for the Predators. So, I think the Devils did really well in the draft this year. Next, we'll move over to the Preds and how they did. I'm just going to list the draft, who they drafted. I don't really know much about him. I know the guy they drafted 24 in the first round, Philip Tomasino. I've heard that people are over the moon about that one. I've never really gotten the opportunity to hear about him, but I know a lot of people like the pick. A lot of people think it was a steal. So I'm looking forward to it. He had 72 points in 67 games when he was in his last season. Igor Afanasyev, he had 62 points in 58 games. He was drafted at 45. I think that was a pretty good pickup. Alexander Campbell, he played 53 games. He had 21 goals, 46 points for 67 assists. Mark Del Gazo, I can't really read it on my TV. In 41 games, he had 29 points, which is good. And then Simeon Kristovakov. God, I'm butchering these names. I'm sorry to anyone who, he had 11 points in 32 games. I mean, that's pretty good. So, yeah, I mean, I got the page up right now about a lot of the players. So, Alex Campbell, it says here he's got pretty good hockey sense. He's really aware on the ice, and he's a super fast player. He's good. He's got some great stick handling skills. But he definitely needs to be bigger. He needs to be stronger. He's not great with the puck protection, and his he's just too almost at times he's too fast. But I'm excited to see that. Hopefully one day he'll make the NHL. I don't know where he's going. He said he's going to go to college and play. So any development you can get out of for a player, whether it's college or juniors or something, I think that'd be okay. Mark Del Gazo, he's going to UMass Amherst. Actually, he's okay. Oh no. Okay. No, I think he was drafted out of UMass Amherst. He's actually from a place I used to live in, Basking Ridge, New Jersey, so that's kind of cool. So he was selected in his second year of eligibility. He's a freshman this year. He was actually paired with Cale Makar last season. And so you saw what he did. Cale Makar is a fantastic defenseman. He's good puck protector. He's got a good shot. He maintains decent gap control, but he doesn't have great acceleration on crossovers. He relies on his hands when engaging it physically, and he can float too often with his stick off the ice, which it leads to a lot of penalties. But to be matched with someone as good as Cale Makar, and to be able to learn from someone like that, I think Delgaizo has a good future in front of him. I'll probably just go over one more if I can find it. Nope, can't find it. All right, but I actually think I might have missed some earlier. Yeah, they drafted Isaac Walther, 179th overall, and they drafted another Finnish player. I mean, the Preds love their Finnish players. Jussi Parssinen, 210th overall. I think he finished up with in the Liga U20s. He was on the U18 team for the World Juniors for Finland. He's pretty good defensively. He's good penalty killing. I'm fascinated with the Predators' fascination with Finnish players, especially Finnish goaltenders. A couple years ago when Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen was going, I was hoping the Preds would draft him, but I think he ended up going to the Sabres. It's been a lot longer since my last podcast, but for the most part, both teams had a pretty good draft. Both teams, were able to escape, and I'm glad that PK Subban was able to go to a team that I can root for in the Devils. I really think that if he'd gone to another team, I mean, it's not that, especially in the Central, but I don't think Poyle would have done that, knowing how good Subban can be. Last year was definitely a down year for him, point production wise. I thought he was decent defensively. I know not a lot of Preds fans agree with that, but for the most part, I'm upset about it. Or I was especially initially, especially once I saw what the trade was. But I think he's going to do a lot better for the Devils than he would if he was still in Nashville. And with the Roman Josi contract coming up, and with the Matt Duchene contract possibly coming up, I really think this is probably the best opportunity we had to part with some cap space. And sometimes it happens when you can't get attached to players, and it sucks, I know. But yeah. So my big question is, what number does Matt Duchene wear if he comes to Nashville? 95 would be weird. I think that might be a rookie number, but 9 is taken by Philip Forsberg. So 95 is going to look quite odd on a Predators jersey for the next 8 years, but sometimes it happens. Hopefully we don't hit that Matt Duchene curse where we just start to suck out of nowhere for no good reason. Just like Ottawa and Colorado. Columbus, they weren't great. They barely squeaked into the play. If we could go on another run where we barely squeak into the playoffs and, we go take a run for it and we just win the cup next year, I don't like when the Preds aren't the underdogs. I think they're a lot better when they don't have any expectations, which I think they have massively lowered expectations this season, in my opinion, because, the last 2 years they've gone out early, when 2 years ago they went out in the Stanley Cup Final, which unfortunately they had to go out. But I really think that if we all lower our expectations a little bit, and, they play the way they can, and to the best of their ability, because you could just tell, even though they won the Central Division last year, they were not the Nashville Predators we know. They were some weird form of them. I mean, sure, injuries plagued the team. But it plagues every team. The Boston Bruins were probably the most injured team up into the Stanley Cup Finals. Zdeno Chara played with a broken jaw. They still made it there. They were one win away from the promised land, but they couldn't show up in the last game. Kind of like how we did in games 5 and 6 against the Pens. But really, other news in hockey. There's been a couple trades in the NHL since the last time they made a video or a pod. There's been a ton since they last made a podcast. But since June 14th, there have been a couple trades, which is when this trade tracker starts. The Philadelphia Flyers got Matty Niskanen from the Capitals for Radko Gudas. I was told that Radko Gudas will wear number 33, but I'm not too sure about that. Nashville Predators got Connor Ingram from the Tampa Bay Lightning for 2021 draft pick. Dominic Cahoon, a 5th rounder, went to the Pittsburgh Penguins for Oli Mata. I believe the Chicago Blackhawks have just completely overstacked their defensemen. I feel like a deal for Duncan Keith or Brent Seabrook is coming soon. That's just a hunch. I obviously have no insight on that. The New York Rangers got Jacob Trouba from the Jets for Neil Poink, and the first that they sent to New York for Kevin Hayes. And so they essentially got a first. They essentially got Neil Poink for Jacob. No, it's weird. They got Neil Poink and half a year of Kevin Hayes, where he was. I don't think he was even that good in the playoffs, and I'm going to talk about him more in a second. In regards to contracts and stuff like that. But the Jets have been terrible with trades lately. And I think there's going to be another one coming. I think Laine might go somewhere, because they unless they bridge deal him, because I feel like that's the only way that they can do anything, if they bridge deal Patrick Laine. 25 goals. 20. He had a span of where he went 18 goals and then just went cold. I think he scored either 25 or 30 this year. Usually that's not a sign of worry, but since he was so streaky last season. I really do think that he gets bridge dealed. If they don't, then they're really serious, and they know that last year was a bit of a fluke. But June 18th, I'm not going to go over all the trades, for picks and stuff when it comes to the draft. But June 18th, the Sharks traded Justin Braun to the Flyers for a second-round pick and a third-round pick, one in 2019, one in 2020. Again, Philadelphia's been serious. They're really trying to change up the defense. They brought in 2 veteran defensemen who can really do a lot for the team, for their young guys. I really think they're going to be a decent team next year. The Metropolitan Division keeps getting better and better. With the addition of Justin Braun to the Philadelphia Flyers, with the trading of Matt Niskanen and for Radko Gudas, I think the Washington Capitals have become that much more of a physical team. They're bigger, they're heavier. With the addition of PK Subban to the New Jersey Devils, the Metropolitan Division is it's wide open next season. Usually I like to say that the Central Division is one of the toughest in the league, and it certainly is. But I think the Metropolitan might take that crown next year. With that acquisition. Just a bunch of draft pick trades. All right, here we go. One of the weird ones, June 22nd, was Tom Pyatt and the number 164th pick from the Canucks for Francis Perron, and the 215th pick in the 2019 draft. That's a really minor trade, but it was something for the fans to flip out about and stuff like that. I definitely looked at it and was like, that's very interesting. The Devils and the Blackhawks switched up fringe NHLers. John Hayden, I thought he was a defenseman. I think John Hayden is a defenseman. John Quenville is a forward. Regardless, they traded fringe NHLers John Hayden to the to the Devils for John Quenville. They traded Johns as well, and I think they just wanted the Quenville back in Chicago. The one that was really interesting that caused a lot of confusion was the JT Miller trade. Vancouver Canucks got JT Miller from Marek Mazanek, who has been on a billion different teams this season, in the last 2 years. He was with the Preds for the season. The season UC Saros stopped bouncing between them when he became the true backup. Marek Mazanek did not make that very hard. He was not very good in the few games that he played. I believe he was in New York and Vancouver. Now he's in Tampa Bay. I don't understand giving up all that for JT Miller. I think he's going to be a great second line, maybe even third line centerman. He can bring an element that the Canucks need. I mean, he's a veteran defenseman, but they've vastly overpaid for him. Maybe just a first, maybe Marek Mazanek and like 2 thirds or something like that, but I don't know if a first was ever warranted. And that number 71st pick in the 2019 draft and next year's first round pick. And there's a condition on that pick, and if the Canucks do not, I think it's lottery protected basically, and if they don't make the Canucks don't make the playoffs next year, then moves to a 2021 first. So basically, the Canucks are basically guaranteeing a 2021 playoff appearance, which is pretty ballsy. The next trade, which actually just has some news, catch up on it today. The Carolina Hurricanes acquired Patrick Marleau for a first round pick and a 7th round pick for a 6th round pick in 2020. They just bought out Patrick Marleau today. That's pretty much the only reason they did that. I believe it's Patrick Marleau get his bonus. I think it's $3 million bonus, and then he will get, I think it's 1.2 against the cap for 3 years, I believe. Yeah, that would make sense. So there's that. That's a pretty big development in that. So Patrick Marleau will not be playing for the Carolina Hurricanes, which leaves them open to signing players like Sebastian Aho, Peter Mrazek, McElhaney, Williams, and any of the Furland, or any of the UFA and RFAs they have, which they have quite a few, and it's troubling. They're coming into cap issues, but it's more or less they can't spend more than they have. They don't have that much money to begin with. Again, I'm going to mention it again, even though I went over it already. The PK Subban trade, Subban for Santini, Davies, and 2 second-round picks. And then the interesting one was the Dallas Stars. Was the Ryan Hartman trade. Ryan Hartman goes to the Dallas Stars. I believe it's his 4th team in 2 years. And I mean, he's got to still sign a contract. I believe he's an RFA, which I guess the Flyers had no intentions of keeping him. And for Tyler Pitlick to the Flyers, Ryan Hartman is off the grid until I believe this Sunday, so he doesn't know he got traded yet, unless his mother was able to find a way to get through to him or something. I've yet to check Twitter on that one, but I think that's kind of funny. Earlier, I went back and was saying how the Chicago Blackhawks have really shored up their defense. The Blackhawks got Calvin DeHaan and Alexis Sorella, who's a big part in the Checkers winning the Calder Cup, for Anton Forsberg and Gustav Forsling. The Chicago Blackhawks completely ripped off the Carolina Hurricanes, which is weird because the Canes have been fantastic at moving players. Recently, that was just a really, really bad trade. I don't know why you would sign Calvin DeHaan for 4 years and then trade him. I understand that he was injured a lot last season, but I don't know. That's just me. And then Carl Soderberg for Kevin Connaughton happened a couple days ago. That's nothing major. And last night, the break broke really late last night, really early this morning. Carolina Hurricanes acquired forward Eric Howla from the Vegas Golden Knights for Nicholas Waugh and a conditional 5th-round pick in 2021. And the Carolina Hurricanes, after dealing with the Chicago Blackhawks, quickly got back into their trading ways. They completely stole Eric Howla under the pretenses that the Vegas Golden Knights kind of needed them to. Nicholas Waugh is a fantastic player. He's got some great upside. He's going to be great. And he was instrumental in the Checkers winning the Stanley Cup, just like Sorella was for the Checkers. And a 5th-round pick. Like, I understand you need to get rid of players, but I think you should maybe go a little bit more than that 5th-round pick and a pretty good prospect. Maybe like a 3rd or 2nd-round pick. I don't know. Maybe I'm overrating Eric Howla. I just think he's a pretty good all-around player. I think he'll do really well in Carolina. And he'll be reunited with Nino Niederreiter. They were both Minnesota Wild players. So that's all that's happened in all that in the NHL. So to the Kevin Hayes contract. Let me look it up real quick to make sure I have it correct. But Kevin Hayes has started a shitstorm on social media because he signed a $7 million. Okay, yeah, it's a $7.14 million deal for 7 years, a $50 million contract. Geez, where do I start with this one? It's not a good. It was not good. The market has opened up now. Kevin Hayes is a pretty good second line center. He's not a great second line center, which is why I think we had to trade Subban. Before this Kevin Hayes contract, I think you could sign Duchesne for a decent amount of money. Probably somewhere under $9 million, maybe about $8.75 million probably for Matt Duchesne. I think would have been happy for that. But when Kevin Hayes signed his $7 million contract, a lot of people in this league looked and said, I'm now worth $7 million or more. It makes the Bergeron contract look better every day. Makes the Kadri contract look better every day. Which, again, I've actually heard some rumors that Nazem Kadri has drawn some interest from the Nashville Predators. And I think, he's a physical presence. He's a team leader. I think it'd be a fantastic trade. I don't know what goes the other way. I've heard Kyle Turris, but I think that's a good salary swap there. I don't know how the Maple Leafs do it, and they're a part of this too. I didn't realize there was no move clause in Kevin Hayes' contract, and a modified no trade clause in the last 4 years. So I think a lot of players, especially players in the Leafs, Mitch Marner especially, looked at this signing rather, and said, "Well, looks like my deal just shot up." Apparently, they're hearing numbers between or a little bit like $10 million, and some other numbers came out, $13-14 million. I don't believe that has happened, but you just never know. they have to be careful. I don't know if Nylander contract. I don't know if this is not going to end up like the Nylander contract. And if it does, I think Adam Wild said on the Steve Dangle podcast. I think you need to fire Kyle Dubas if that's the scenario. You can't let two guys do that, especially two star players. You can't let them hold the deck like that. I think he gets signed after free agency starts. I don't think any offer sheets are going to come his way. I don't think... I mean, it's the year of the offer sheet, they say. I mean, nothing ever happens. I don't think... I think he's going to sign. I think it's going to cost him a lot. I think they're going to have to trade someone they don't intend on trading for this contract to work. They cleared up $6 million in cap space right off the bat with the Marlowe trade. Let's see how much money they have projected, and with the cap not going up very much next year, it's definitely something to look at. So, the cap next year is supposed to be about $82.5 million, which is or maybe $81.5 million. It's supposed to be a lot lower than they expected it to. They got $40 million in their forwards. They got $15 million in their defense, and $5.3 million in their goalies. They have $5.3 million on their injured reserve. They're still retaining on Kessel, and they're done with the Mikhail Grabovski buyout. Janssen, Kapanen, and Marner are their only RFAs. Janssen is eligible for arbitration. I think they'll be able to get those. I've heard that they've had those deals done already, and it's really it's just Kapanen and. Again, it's just Marner, really, and everything relies on how much they're paying Marner. Because if they pay Marner enough, then they have to trade Janssen or Kapanen. And I think just about any team in the league would be lucky or would pay them and the money that they deserve. I think, but $3-4 million a piece. I think they'll be fine. Next year they have Frederick Gauthier and Connor Brown coming up. I've heard a lot of rumors about Connor Brown being traded. Same with Nikita Zaitsev, though I think he wants to be traded. Jake Muzzin next year, Travis Dermott next year, and Justin Hull next year. Ron Hainsey, Igor Izhaganov, Martin Norensen, and Jake Gardner are all UFAs. Pretty sure Gardner's leaving. And then next year, Sparks, and 2 years from now, Anderson are UFAs. So their cap trouble is coming hard, and it's coming now. I don't know if they're going to be able to keep everyone. But... I'll let them control that. I'm already sick of the Marner conversation. If I'm being blatantly honest, it's been dragging, man, and it hasn't stopped because the moment December 1st rolled around and it was 5:00 and that deal was signed for Nylander was the moment, because I think it came in at like 4:52 or whatever that they had signed it, and the moment he signed that, or the moment the news spread on Twitter, that is when everyone started going absolutely nuts about Marner and how much he's going to cost. And Steve Dangle made the Marner jar, and just it's crazy. So with that, I believe I'm finished for this podcast. If you like it, I will definitely try to make more. It's definitely a lot easier to make. Well, because I can sit here and do things that I need to do, and just kind of rattle on. So yeah, hopefully be back with another podcast. Maybe when I get back from New Jersey. When I come back from New Jersey, I'll try to do a free agency podcast. See what I got on there. Maybe do. I'll have my phone with me, so I'm gonna do a quick Matt Duchene reaction on if I'm on the road, if they sign him. And then I'll probably come back to do a podcast on that kind of stuff. And then, just take a look around at the sports world. When I come back, I think, I don't know. I guess we'll find out. I might try to have a guest. I'll probably end up being my brother. I said that last time, but, so yeah. I think that's it for me. Enjoy the rest of your day. If you're still listening to this podcast, 35 minutes in, I appreciate it. And if you're listening on the YouTube channel, which is the only place to listen to it because I'm too lazy to actually put it on a podcatcher, I'll catch you on the flip side. Actually, this might go on silent, but I will catch you on the flip side. Peace out, party people.